Hey there. Thank you for signing up for Awkward SD's Sadistic Summer Book Club. I'm super stoked that you're here, and I hope you enjoy this truly amazing book that we're about to read, We Eat Our Own by Kea Wilson. What's so astounding about this book is how dense it is for being a relatively small package. To fully appreciate We Eat Our Own, let's first talk about one of the most infamous films ever made, the Italian production called Cannibal Holocaust. Italian cinema was at the forefront of innovation in the 60s and 70s. Cinephiles probably know that term spaghetti western, or western films produced by Italian directors, but other Italian genres were exploding in popularity, including the sleazy, violent mysteries known as giallo, and the mondo genre, which were exploitation documentaries that showcased shocking cultural practices from around the world. Mondo films were extremely problematic in that they viewed cultures through a xenophobic lens, often sensationalizing customs or even falsifying depictions to include more sex, violence, animal death, and yes, cannibalism. Regardless, the documentary style of Mondo films proved to be extremely popular, which Italian director Ruggero Deodato sought to emulate in his Cannibal Holocaust. Filmed in 1979, Cannibal Holocaust is about a journalist who travels to the Amazon in search of a missing film crew, who had set out to document the warring tribes of the Yanomamo and the Shamateri. However, the journalist finds their corpses as well as their film reels, which he brings back to New York, where TV executives want to use the footage to produce an expose of sensational authenticity. However, the footage turns out to be a descent into madness. It's revealed that a film crew intentionally terrorized, raped, and killed the indigenous people they set out to document. In this sense, Cannibal Holocaust is the first true found footage film, way before the Blair Witch Project, and its documentary-like style creates moments of genuine horror. The depictions of violence, including real-life animal slaughter, are extremely hard to watch even by today's shaded standards. Now this is where Kea Wilson's novel comes in. We Eat Our Own is about a mysterious and tension-laced film production in the Amazon region set during the 1970s, and it's highly influenced by Cannibal Holocaust's well-documented nightmare of a production. By all accounts, Cannibal Holocaust was hell to film, largely because of director Ruggero Deodato's ruthlessness to create something that would shock the world. He abused his actors, burned down an actual village, and yes, killed animals on screen. When the film was released in Italy, people were so appalled that it was immediately banned and Deodato was brought on trial for murder. People thought he had actually made a snuff film. To prove his innocence, he had to track down his actors and prove they were still alive, which was difficult since they all signed agreements to not appear for a year after the film's release, a publicity stunt meant to boost the film's authenticity. Still, the film was banned and Deodato was charged with animal abuse. Cannibal Holocaust has been one of the most banned and censored films in all of history. Although, fun fact, the film emerged a few years later in Japan and was the second highest grossing in 1982, after E.T. At its heart, Cannibal Holocaust is a scathing indictment, a movie with a message about colonization and the dangers of media depictions. Does it tell this message well? No, not really.
Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible.
And often falls victim to its own critiques in an effort to shock the audience. But that's not to say the result isn't fascinating. And in fact, Cannibal Holocaust feels like a product that perfectly reflected the ugly geopolitical and cultural climate of the late 70s. Ruggero Deodato has stated that Cannibal Holocaust was inspired by his disgust with the media coverage of the Red Brigades, a far-left Marxist organization and guerrilla group that terrorized Italy during the 70s. A very brief and probably reductive description of the Red Brigades is that they sought to remove Italy from NATO through violent means. The Red Brigades robbed banks, kidnapped government officials, and even murdered Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro. But what makes Cannibal Holocaust even more intriguing is that Deodato decided to film it near the small village of Leticia, Colombia, which is nestled on the borders of Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. The village's transitory position on these three borders made it a haven for drug traffickers who could elude authorities in any state by simply jumping across the border. This certainly contributed to the spirit of lawlessness and insanity that permeated the Cannibal Holocaust set, which, based on interviews from the actors, often was a frenzied cocaine party. Also, and this is an important aspect to remember while reading Kea Wilson's novel, Colombia was experiencing its own wave of revolutionary socialism. The country was being pulled apart by groups like the FARC, National Liberation Army, and the M19 movement, which is the one that is most prominently featured in We Eat Our Own. Again, this is going to be a very broad description, but the M19 were a nationalist, socialist, far-left group that used violent guerrilla tactics to oppose American imperialism. Like Italy's Red Brigades, this included kidnapping and murdering government officials. Which is all to say that We Eat Our Own takes everything that we mentioned and combines it all into a riveting novel. The madness that went into making the movie, the political and revolutionary violence that was tearing apart Italy and Colombia at the time, not to mention America's complicity, and the blurry line between entertainment and sadism. It's truly a masterful work, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you for reading.